The following story, although fictional, does contain the disappearance of several townspeople of varying ages. This story is not meant for children and may be disturbing for some. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello, Asylum. Have you ever met a stranger that you just couldn't resist? Tonight's tale is called Stillwater. I arrived in Stillwater on a hot and humid afternoon. The air was thick with the scent of magnolia and the distant rumble of thunder. I had nothing but my suitcase and could feel the curious eyes of the townspeople on me. I could tell they were whispering about me as I made my way through town with a distrust that I had grown all too familiar with. I smiled, knowing my name would soon be in everyone's mouth and my face burned into their minds. When I got to the only motel in town, I introduced myself to the innkeeper as Mr. Blackwood. It was a cozy aging place called the Stillwater Inn. Mrs. Jenkins, the innkeeper, looked at me with a mixture of politeness and apprehension as she handed me the key to my room at the end of the hall. I preferred the solitude, away from nosy eyes and ears. Over the next few days, I began to explore Stillwater. I visited the general store, the diner, and the town square where an old oak tree stood strong and proud. Everywhere I went, I felt the townspeople's unease growing. They could sense something was different about me. Something they couldn't quite put their finger on. My first ticket happened just as I had planned. Tyreek Miller, a young boy who loved to play in the woods. He was the perfect choice. I saw him playing by the edge of the field, his bike discarded on the ground. I approached him, and with a simple touch, I planted the seed of control in his mind. That night, he vanished in the woods, his mind lost to my whispers. To my pleasure, the town was in a panic. They organized search parties combing through the fields and nearby woods, but there was no sign of Tyreek. As the days passed, their hope faded, and the whispers about me grew louder. I could feel their fear and suspicion. I fed off of it, growing stronger as each day passed. Next was Mrs. Roberts, the elderly widow who lived alone on the edge of town. I spotted her at the diner, striking up a conversation over coffee. With a casual touch, I planted my whispers into her mind. Later, her friends found her house eerily quiet, her knitting left unfinished on her rocking chair, and the back door wide open. She had wandered into the woods, drawn by my unseen force. I could feel the fear in the air, smell it, taste it. It was intoxicating and I loved it. The townspeople began going in their houses before the sun went down, keeping their curtains closed tight. But I continued to walk the streets. I reveled in that fear, knowing that it made my control over them even more potent. Sheriff Daniels grew suspicious. He approached me in the town square, demanding to know if I was involved in the disappearances. I smiled slyly and shook my head, denying any involvement. I reached into his smug little mind as he looked into my eyes, planting the whispers deep within. That night, he woke up in a cold sweat, the whispers consuming him. I waited for him on his front lawn. He didn't even notice me as he blankly headed into the woods. By morning, he was gone. The disappearances continued. One by one, the townspeople vanished without a trace. The disappearances tasted more and more delicious. Those who came into close contact with me began acting strangely. Their eyes became vacant, their movements mechanical. My whispers had taken root, slowly taking control of their mind. A town meeting was called in desperation. They gathered in the town hall hoping to find a way to rid themselves of me. I decided it was time to make my move. Walked into the hall, silencing the room with my presence. I raised my hand and a wave of calm washed over the crowd. A blank, obedient stare replaced their fear. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice smooth and command. There's no need to fear. I'm here to help you, to guide you. They listened, entranced by my words. My voice echoed inside their heads, drawing out their thoughts and replacing them with my own. I could feel their minds bending to my will. My whispers taking complete control. As the days turned into weeks, Stillwater became a ghost town. Those who had not disappeared were now mere shells of their former selves, their minds enslaved by my telepathic powers. I had become the master of Stillwater, and there was no one left to resist me. One by one, the remaining townspeople vanished into the night, drawn into the woods by my unseen force. They walked in a trance, their eyes vacant, their moves mechanical. They disappeared into the tall trees, never to be seen again. Eventually, Stillwater was abandoned. Once manicured lawns grew wild and the buildings crumbled into decay. The only sign of the town's former existence was that old oak tree in the town square, its branches stretching out like skeletal arms. I've grown fond of that tree. As for me, I moved on, a suitcase in my hand, my satisfaction ever present, somewhere in another small, unsuspecting town. A stranger in a black suit would soon arrive. My feeding would begin anew, and the whispers in the woods would be heard once more. Well, Asylum. My friend, Mr. Blackwood, and I will be having tea later. Oh, and in case you're wondering, Stillwater became nothing more than a distant memory, a cautionary tale whispered around neighborhoods. But for those who've heard the rumors, he became just an urban legend, and that's their biggest mistake. Because you see, Asylum, I know Mr. Blackwood exists. So when he comes to your town, searching for his next victim, ready to consume their minds with his dark telepathic power, don't say I didn't warn you. If you enjoyed this tale and have one of your own that you would like narrated by me, all you gotta do is let me know. JustMyGemini@gmail.com. Until next Friday, good night. And don't let the monster under the bed bite.